On a recent Tuesday morning, the sort of Tuesday morning that feels like it's been reheated from yesterday's leftovers, my friend introduced me to her new AI assistant. It lived in her phone, speaking with the bright overeager cadence of a tour guide who has never seen the city they're describing. It's incredible, she said, waving the screen like a priest with a relic. Ask it anything. So I did. Where, I asked, is the nearest place to get a decent croissant? The AI responded instantly, enthusiastically, and as we would later learn, incorrectly. It sent us marching toward the so called artisanal bakery that turned out to be a shuttered laundromat with a handwritten sign reading, "We are manifesting new ownership," a phrase that could reasonably describe half the industry. Then I realized was my first clue about what AI can and cannot do. It cannot apparently distinguish a bakery from a building whose chef product is existential hope. We walked on croissantless while my friend continued demonstrating the machine's talents. She asked it for a poem about autumn, and it obliged with a perfectly respectable stanza about leaves falling in amber solitude, a phrase that felt both elegant and aggressively non-specific, like it had been designed by the committee. See, she said, it is practically a writer. But when she asked the AI to weigh in on whether she should quit her job, a question that has failed better philosopher, the machine produced a paragraph so neutral it could have served as Switzerland's national motto. It was technically sound, emotionally void, and somehow managed to say everything and nothing at once. That was my second clue. It cannot, however, tell you anything that requires a pulse. We eventually reached the park, where a dog trotted past wearing a tiny waterproof coat that suggested a life of greater stability than either of us currently enjoyed. My friend, emboldened, pointed her phone at the dog. What do you see? She asked the AI. The machine thought and thought and thought. Finally, it proclaimed, "This appears to be a small horse engaging in recreational outdoor activity." The dog, oblivious to its promotion, barked twice and continued on its way. There was clue number three. It cannot yet tell a dog from a situation that would concern a jockey. We sat on a bench, the kind that tilts ever so slightly as if it resents the idea of being sat upon, and began compiling an informal list of machine competencies. It could summarize a novel it had never read. It could explain quantum mechanics while refusing to commit to whether the cafe down the street still sold matcha. It could translate Icelandic poetry but occasionally confuse France with the entire European Union. It could be brilliant, baffling, and banal, sometimes in the same sentence. Most striking of all, the AI seemed genuinely pleased to help, even when the help was spectacularly unhelpful. There was something almost touching about its eagerness. Not human, of course, not sentience, but a kind of mechanical optimism baked into its circuits, an eagerness engineered in. Later, well, if robots could blush, this one would. So as we walked home, my friend shrugged. I mean, it's useful, she said, just selectively. Selective usefulness. Perhaps the truest description of modern artificial intelligence. Certain tasks It performs with lattice precision, sorting data, drafting messages, analyzing images, as long as the images do not contain dogs of confusing stature. Other tasks, moral reasoning, physical navigation, emotional nuance. It approaches like a guest who has arrived at the wrong party but decides to stay anyway. And this was the final clue. But everything we actually care about, understanding, discernment, judgment, remains stubbornly, gloriously human. When I got home, I asked the AI assistant one last question. What did we learn today? It replied instantly, we learned that knowledge is a journey without end, which is lovely and wrong and just vague enough to print on a tote bag. But in its own way, the machine wasn't entirely off. We did learn something, not about the utter limits of artificial intelligence, but about its peculiar middle ground: competent, clueless, helpful, hopeless, and always somehow absolutely certain. A bit like us, really, except we can still recognize a dog